Good morning, folks. Welcome to Coffee with Artists. It is Friday. My name is Rachel Wilkins. I am your host. Delighted this morning to be joined by a neighbor, actually. You're just in Jersey City. So welcome to the show, Bryant Small. Good to have you.
Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
So you are in Jersey City.
Yeah.
I am right up the street, actually, from you. Jersey City's been one of those places that really has kind of had an evolution in terms of the focus on art there, and certainly we're seeing a lot more of the big name street artists coming into Jersey City. Tell me a little bit about your experience, how long you've been there, and really the changes that you've seen living in that neighborhood.
Well, Jersey City, I've been here, 15, 16 years. I've been in the area for quite a long time, like 20 something years.
Oh, wow.
Originally from DC. DC in the house. But I've been in Jersey City quite a long time, and the evolution over the last 10 years, it's always been a huge artistic hub, being right across the water from New York City, and artists. I just feel like it's a perfect space of. It was always a perfect space for artists that didn't necessarily want to live in the city or couldn't afford to live in the city, but still needed access and had plenty of time, had the money, the space, and the time in Jersey City, but also had the access to like the art scene of New York City.
Right.
And so it just naturally had the buzz and the energy. What's happened over time, just because of real estate, just because of like the change in the scene, Jersey City has just become like this melting pot of all of it's like the spillover, but now it's the place to be. Like this is the centralized like New York City for art.
Yeah.
And so you see people migrating to purposely and purposefully to Jersey City.
I love that you said that, like it's the new place, because I remember probably about 10 years ago, I remember being in New York and thinking, I lived in New York City for 6 years, and I remember thinking, this is done, like for artists at least. Like we can't afford to live here. Nobody can afford to rent a studio. Like unless you have a trust fund or a rich mommy and daddy or whatever, no artist can afford this. And around that time, I remember thinking it's gonna go to like Long Island City. That's going to be like the main hub, but it didn't. It came across to Jersey City.
Right.
And I think that's really amazing, because for anyone who lives outside of the New York metropolitan area, who doesn't understand kind of the politics, shall we say, of culture in this area, Jersey kind of gets a bad rap, right?
Right. And people think that it's so far, they hear Jersey and they immediately assume that it's this far away land, and then they catch the PATH train. And they're like, oh, wait, it took 8 minutes to get here.
Exactly.
World Trade Center. Or
if I was to take a train from Midtown to my station, it's a 7-minute journey. So I have friends who live in Brooklyn. It takes them an hour to get home. So it really is. It's convenient. It's, super close. The taxes are a little bit less. The rent is much less.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very
more space, and it's a great energy and great vibe. I love Jersey City.
Yeah.
So this is the part where Jersey City, you can put that in a commercial or whatever.
I think we got a few Jersey City peeps joining us. Andrea McKenna, it is so good to see you here. She says, love you, Brian. Love you, Rachel. I did not know that the two of you knew each other, but that is awesome.
One of my favorite people, period.
We love you, Andrea. We're glad you're here. I want to get you on the show. So you're going to come on the show whenever you're ready. I would love to have coffee with her as well. So Andrea's a force in Jersey City for the art world. So I'm pleased to hear that the two of you know each other.
I know a lot of people. I try to, I always think about it as like, I don't know a lot of strangers. It's just like people, like it's just friends that I haven't met yet.
Love that.
That's it.
That's a great attitude.
I try, but the thing is, I'm a people person. But I'm not a people person. So when I'm out and about, I'm a people person. So with what's going on with the quarantine, I'm isolated. I'm by myself. I am perfectly fine. So I'm not really challenged with this isolation period. I've been creating and like enjoying the time. I've been out of the house once in the last 6 weeks, literally once.
Wow.
Otherwise, as far as I've been, it's like to take the trash to the curb and back in the house. And so I've enjoyed it. But the flip side is like when I'm out, I can talk to like anyone,
Mhm.
have a great time, and when I'm in it, and then I can come back in and just be completely by myself and be okay.
Don't you feel that most of us artists kind of have those 2 traits? Like, we're like equal parts extrovert, introvert?
I
'Cause
think you have to.
yeah. I remember for years thinking, "I am totally an extrovert." And then as I've gotten older, I'm thinking, "You know what? I actually enjoy the quiet time." Maybe that's an age thing as well. Maybe it comes
It could be. It could.
being, like, almost 40 and, wanting a little bit more quiet, but I've heard a lot of creative people say, "I'm actually very introverted," and then, when you see them at a show, you think, "How is that even possible?"
Yeah,
I mean, for me, meeting you at the New York show, I would never in a million years think that you were introverted in any way.
I really am.
You hide
Like,
it well.
not all the time, not all the time, but generally, like, because at work, I have to be on. So there's a moment that leading up into an exhibition, a show, where like 5 minutes before, it's almost like I get quiet
Mm,
and I kind of have to get into the zone, so to speak, to turn it on.
yep.
And in that moment, I'm thinking, okay, it's showtime.
Mhm,
Turn it on. And in that moment, I could be extremely tired. You wouldn't know it
mm,
because I'm telling my body, and some Andrea may have experienced a sheet where we'll be talking before. I'm like, I'm so tired. Bring the energy from my toes to my brain. Like, come on, let's rally. Bring
mm,
it on, and then let's go. And then I don't feel tired anymore.
mm. You're energized by that environment, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
let it's go time. And
You
so,
know, I've kinda shared this before, on one of the sessions, but, I was in, Texas right at the end of the year, and we'd had some staff turnover, so I had to actually go out and run 2 shows, and I got really, really sick during that time, like, I should have been in bed sick, and I had to show up, and I had to go to both of these shows, and it was, like, 18-hour days with a day in between, and I remember just thinking, I don't think I can do this. How am I even gonna function?
on one of the
Everybody's
sessions, but
everybody's gonna know that I'm sick." I wasn't contagious, so that was fine. But,
mhm.
having to, like, flip that switch and just, make sure that you turn that on. But do you ever feel, I know and I certainly feel this, but after that, when you've shown up and you've, brought that energy, do you feel, like, kinda depleted after the fact?
Sometimes I think especially when I'm going and going and going, um, your energy is focused on being present, being ready, being able to be your best self and be open and share with people, um, and that's what your energy is focused on
Mm,
in that moment. And that is because you're giving of yourself. You've given yourself to your art. You are hopeful that people receive it in the best way possible and try not to be a slave to that. Like, okay. And then that's exhausting. And so in after that, it can be just this all-consuming experience.
mhm,
And then after that, the air comes out of you.
mm. It's like
And
being deflated, right, for a few days.
yeah, it's this this drop
Mm.
after. Uh, but what I found, which is this thing, this is like a therapy session, by the way. Um,
They've been becoming a bit like that, so, hey, we just roll with it.
what I find is what I tend to do is keep myself busy and go to the next event.
Mm,
And so you keep yourself busy enough and keep going and keep going. You go use that energy to go to the next event and you create and you go to the next event so that you don't feel that drop.
mm,
For me, that's a driver to get to the next goal um, because I'm always working towards the next thing. That is extremely important to me. And I think that's kind of pushed the trajectory of my art career is planning and being focused and knowing that this one thing gets me to the next thing.
Hmm. So then
Uh,
let me ask you, how are you coping right now? Because obviously we're not where there's a lot of uncertainty. We're for anybody who's watching this in the future, we're in the middle of the pandemic.
mhm.
Hopefully the last pandemic. But it's very uncertain and a lot of shows are cancelled. We're kind of in this limbo land. We don't know when things are gonna open back up. How are you handling that?
Even, by doing things like this.
Mhm,
It doesn't, because this outside stops, this doesn't stop.
mhm,
It's not a trade-off for me. I just have to think about business in a different way.
mm,
I use this time to plan. I got a text earlier from a gallery owner and friend asking, um, saying like, "Oh, I know you're creating some amazing things right now." And I'm saying, "Yes, I'm always working to do that. I'm always creating, but I'm also using this time to plan
mm.
and focus on the business side
Yep.
as well, and think about what happens after this, because I know there's going to be a new normal. This is not going to be the same, and that's okay.
Mhm,
And that's okay, but I need to figure out for me personally, what does that mean? What does that look like?
mhm,
Does that mean that I need to shift to a more online model? Do I, if I am going to spend dollars on branding and promotion, do I spend those dollars online? Do I focus on doing less in-person shows, knowing that crowds may not be there? And I focused on putting online exhibitions
mhm.
for myself. Does that mean that, like, does the gallery model shift? Does that mean that it's going to be a shift for the actual galleries who, in a lot of cases, drive who gets shown and who doesn't? Does that mean that now an emerging artist now has more power? What
Quite
does that mean? And so those are the things that I'm kind of thinking about, because now the game is different.
Mhm,
And we don't have any control over it. This isn't about money, it's not about status. This freezes everything
mhm,
for everyone. When you see artsy like doing shows for everyone,
mhm.
offering up that prime real estate to everyone, saying this is different for everyone.
Yep.
So, big time artists are opening online shows that you've never seen before.
And
And
then there's the question of, is anybody buying?
right. And then it's always been this thing that big, big price point art, people don't buy online. They need to see it in person, has always been the thing. They'll look at it, and an advisor may look at it on their behalf, but they still need to see it in person.
Mhm. So then are we gonna see these huge tech advancements where we can really have a more personal experience viewing the art
Right.
online as opposed to because we're not gonna possibly be able to see. And it's interesting because this question's been posed a lot right before this happened, do people purchase online?
Right.
Are people as willing to separate with thousands of dollars if they don't physically see something? And I think that that's gonna be something that really is the process to what that looks like is gonna speed up. I
Right.
I think. I mean, I'm just looking at, companies like Conception, like we don't know what to do because we throw events. So
Right.
right now, for anybody who throws any kind of art show, event, a gallery, we're kind of just waiting for to see where the chips fall. And like you said, it's a very good point. Like, yes, even when the we can all go back out, will we? You know,
Right.
will people be willing to actually go out and socialize, or will there be that element of fear? And I think what we're seeing out in China when the restaurants did open up again in Wuhan, people are not dining out because they're still afraid that something is out there.
That's been the biggest thing that I've been kind of thinking about, is we don't know how this is going to affect us.
Mm,
Is the true test of when this is truly over is when we go to our first exhibition
mm,
and we see our other art friends in like a group show, like in a conception show,
yeah.
and there are other artists that you haven't seen in a while. Are we going to walk up and hug each other
Mm,
anymore?
mm,
Or is it going to be that moment of like,
right.
we And so that's a tough thing to kind of think about, um, but we need to get there.
Mm,
I can't wait for us to get there,
yep.
especially for conception arts,
Mm,
like event based uh, art organizations.
mhm.
I think it's so important that people experience art firsthand, but in a situation like this, art is so important.
Mhm.
I think it not only just as like an artist and getting it out, but it serves as such a distraction in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And that's not to reduce the energy that goes into it at all, but it's a welcome distraction just for a second for
Right.
someone to look at a piece of art and imagine themselves in it,
Mhm.
or the way that it could look in their home or whatever. For that split second, they are able to go somewhere else.
Mm.
And I think that's needed.
I 100% agree. I was thinking recently that when you think about the arts as a whole, right? Theater, music, dance, any kind of performance, I feel like the visual arts is always on the bottom of the totem pole, right? And it's kind of the one that suffers the most. Uh,
Mhm.
when you look at what's happening right now online, we're seeing a lot of people, musicians showing up and doing live streams. We're seeing, the opera doing free viewings, the ballet, even exercise. People are teaching online classes.
Yeah.
How do you think that could look from an artist's perspective?
I've been having lots of conversations like this. I belong to a number of organizations in Jersey City, and a lot of different groups have been coming together to kind of address that issue, that exact
Mhm,
issue, and trying to ensure that visual arts and just arts overall aren't left behind.
mhm,
Um, but also having this difficult conversation around, like, is this our time? There are bigger issues going on, and the arts are absolutely imperative and important.
mm,
But we also have, people losing their jobs.
mhm,
But I see Bethany saying art is a unifier. That is extremely true.
mhm.
You know, eh, but at the same time, there are other issues going on.
Right.
But with visual arts, we have to figure it out. We have to think about, is it doing lots more sessions like this?
Mhm,
I think that visual artists in particular, we figure out a way of getting the work seen. We always figure it out.
mhm,
Like, there have been all these social media challenges going on, and I participated in this challenge. It was like, it's the Pass the Brush challenge that was going on in TikTok and Instagram. And a group of friends and I decided we were going to participate because we saw an opportunity for visual artists to get in on this social media challenge.
mhm.
And so we saw a number of visual artists doing the exact same thing. You have to figure out how to adjust, how to insert art in everything that we're doing. We have a strong voice, we have the ability to kind of get inside people's heads and create images that live with people, that stick with people. Every single thing that we do, that we see, um, is about art.
Mhm.
Like, someone had to create the packaging on the coffee.
Right.
There's a graphic designer. There's an
Like,
artist,
yep.
right, that did that, and it impacts us. There's a reason why you selected that particular cup. It resonated with you.
Yep.
So I think that there is going to be, we are always present.
Mhm,
Art is always present. I just think we always have to think about, how do we adjust? How do we incorporate ourselves into these changes?
mhm.
And I don't think we're ever going to go away. We'll just have to reinvent ourselves or show it in a different way, or figure it out, even when sirens are happening.
I think we're hearing the same siren in the background here 'cause I'm hearing it too. It's so funny. It's really interesting what you're saying. I absolutely agree, entirely with that. And what's been amazing for me is to having these conversations right now. I think you are number 15 right now because we've been doing five a week, so every morning during weekdays. And just the stories and the richness and the just tapestry of just amazing stories that you guys have, that we as artists have.
Yeah.
And to realize that, it's not just about the piece, it's not just about the artwork. You are an extension of that narrative, of that piece of work in the background. Like, that's
Yeah.
about you. When people choose to buy a piece of original art, they're a special kind of person, right? Because there are people that go buy their art from Target or IKEA, and that's fine, and I have no judgment for those people. But those that believe and take home a piece of artwork, they understand that that's an extension of the artist themselves.
Right. I always say that one of the things that I always think about is that people, they buy art, but they're actually buying a story.
Hmm.
They want to know sometimes, like, well, what were you thinking about? Usually that's part of the discussion when someone is meeting the artist.
Hmm.
They start to ask, well, what are you listening to? What are you thinking about? Well, what inspires you? Where are you from? Those are the things that they start to ask, uh, because they want to better understand where's that energy coming from.
Hmm. The magic.
Yeah, what is that? What is that stuff that's helping you create these pieces?
Mm.
That helps to create a deeper connection with the piece of art that they're buying.
Hmm.
And so that's a big thing. I don't take it for granted when someone buys a piece of my art. They are taking a little piece of me home with them.
Yep.
And so if you are bringing me in your home, I want you to feel comfortable with that. I want you to feel confident knowing that this piece of art comes with a story,
Mm.
that that is coming with good energy, and that I'm creating it from a good place. And so you can feel comfortable hanging that in your home.
And these are stories that are retold. For example, if somebody has that piece in their dining room when they have friends over for dinner, I'm sure that story is going to be told
Right.
again and again.
Right.
And that's amazing. That's what I think we hope as artists we can do, right? We can send these pieces out into the world and they can, create a new narrative for that person.
Absolutely.
Is it is it ever hard for you to let pieces go?
Ah, no, no, because the pieces aren't for me. And if there are a few pieces, there are about 4 pieces in all of my work that I can't let go of, and I don't show them.
Hmm.
There's one in my bedroom, one that's hanging on my wall downstairs, and just 2 more that I haven't shown. Otherwise, they're out in the wild.
What is it about those pieces that you feel?
One of the pieces, in particular, that's hanging in my bedroom was the first large scale, like larger piece that I'd ever done. And so that piece I can't let go of, and my first alcohol ink pieces I won't sell.
Mm.
Otherwise, the pieces aren't for me. So I paint every single day. If I am home and I paint, as long as I'm not in a bad space. If I'm in a bad mood, I don't paint.
Really?
So I'm not an artist that creates from a dark place.
Mm.
So if I'm in a bad mood, I don't paint. If I am having an emotional day, feeling angst or anger or sorrow, anything in that space, I don't paint.
Mm.
Because art is a happy place for me. So a lot of artists use that angst and anger and sorrow, etc., to create art. I don't.
So
Art is a happy place for me.
So tell me about that. How did you come to realize that, or how did you get to that point? Where did you first realize that it was an expression of joy and happiness?
I just don't. Creative art in general has just been about happiness for me. It has always been about um, creating a good space,
Mm.
especially I've always been a creative. Like, I was a creative kid, everything. Somewhere in here, my mom is in the room. I did see her pop up. She's in here.
Hey, mom. I love it when the moms show up. Let me
But
just pause there for 1 second. We have a ton of people, so you got a ton of your supporters in today. So welcome to the Bryant Small fan club who have joined us this morning. You guys are showing a lot of love to Brian, so you know
you,
that speaks volumes about you, Brian. We will be taking some questions. We'll probably pause about halfway through and take some questions. So if you have any questions for Brian, do pop them into the comments. If there's a ton of them, we'll go right through till the end, and we'll take some questions then. But thank you everybody for showing up. It speaks volumes for how you feel about this awesome artist that's joining us today. Jennifer Fanning says Brian's mom is a wonderful artist as well.
he is.
Ooh,
Now
okay.
she's like this, like, don't talk about me. This moment is about you, is what she's saying in
Okay.
her head right
So
now.
you tell me, please carry on with what you were saying about how you discovered that it was joyful for you, and then we're going to talk about your mom.
Yeah. So this is kind of tied in together,
Okay.
and this is really all about this therapy session that's happening. So people will get a little more about me. When it came to Alcohol Inc., I started creating as a result of like this divorce that I was going through.
Mm,
And so my mom came to town and said, "You need a distraction. I see your light going out."
mm,
And so she was like, "I've come across this medium. You have to try it. You're going to love it." And so we put plastic down on my table, and she was like, "You do this, this, and this. Check it out." And something clicked.
mm,
It's like, huh, I really, really like this. And before I had painted in acrylic, I had done things just for myself. Like, instead of going to IKEA and picking up something, like if I needed something for a wall, I'd paint something. Like, okay, this is great. I paint something, and that was it. And I never talked about it. People would come to my house and like, oh, I like that piece. Like, I did that, and that would be it.
mm.
And so when we decided to sit down and paint, I started just creating things. And I would just post it here and there, and people like, oh, that's really cool. And then eventually people said, wait, well, what is that? What are you using and who painted that? Like, well, it's alcohol ink and I painted it. And it just kind of caught on,
Mm.
this thing. And I realized that art was like this therapy thing for me. I wasn't thinking about all of the craziness that was going on. I was just creating. And it was fun and it was different. And then it wasn't about anything else. So it wasn't this intentional focus on this is about happiness. It wasn't about that. It was just like, huh, let me do another one.
Mm.
Do another one. And it just kept happening. And the art kept coming and I kept enjoying it. And then it's like, well, maybe someone, a woman I used to work with said, I want to buy that. It's like, this?
How did that feel?
Strange initially. I'm like, did you want to buy this? And she's like, yeah. Do you have a website? I'm like, no. But she's like, well, do you want to? You should probably like create an Etsy page or something.
Mm.
And I said, all right, I'll create an Etsy page. And I did. And within an hour, she bought it.
Wow.
And I thought, all right, cool. And then I created another piece, and someone said, oh, I want to buy that one too, and bought it. And then a couple friends and family members and stuff started buying. And I was like, okay, these are sympathy purchases. Because
I've never
people
heard it called that before, but I like it.
because people think you're going through this strange time and you're just using this to get stuff out. So I'm
Mm.
like, all right, this doesn't become real until someone I don't know buys a painting. If someone I don't know buys a painting, then it becomes real. And then someone that I didn't know bought a painting, and I thought, huh, okay,
So
we'll see how this goes.
was that kind of your validation to continue with what you were doing?
It wasn't, no, but I thought someone is spending their money on
Mm.
this. So maybe I do have something going on here.
Mm.
Not that I thought that this is good or bad. I thought maybe that I have something going here. And it wasn't about whether it was good or bad. It was just someone would buy this. And
Do
so
I'm interested to know because I have my own opinions on this, but do you let what sells inform your creative decisions?
no,
Hmm.
no, because the things that I think that are going to sell, like, oh, I did this, are the things that people are like, eh.
Yep.
And there are other things that I'm like, oh gosh, I'm just not sure about that one.
Mm.
Will be the thing that someone is like, this is speaks to me. This is so great. And I'm like, okay, great. That's fine. And that's when I realized that it's not about what I think.
Mhm.
It's not about what I feel about the art. There's some things that speak to people in a different way. You don't know what's going to tap into something for someone.
What
So
is
the only thing I can do is just create and give it to the world. That's all
mm.
that I can do.
So we're both abstract painters. What are some, there's generally not an image or an intent in the perhaps the work. What are some of the most interesting comments that you've had or entertaining comments that you've had about the piece?
I've gotten one of my first shows. This is a group of sisters, or they look like they could be sisters, standing back, and it was four of them. Three of them were enthralled, like, oh, this is great. I've never seen anything like this. This is beautiful. And one lady, and they didn't know that I was the artist. So I'm kind of standing back, giving them room and space to look at the work. And so I kind of step back, and one of them is just kind of looking at it. And the three of them are like, I love this so much, and kind of pitching each other to buy the
Hmm.
piece. And they're like, oh, I love this. I love this. And one of them just kind of steps back and she folds her arms and she's like, all I see is a whole bunch of colors.
Hmm.
And I was like, so I'd like stand beside her and like, yeah, that's it, a whole bunch of colors. And she was like, I don't know what he was thinking, and just kind of walks away. Like, okay.
Mm.
But then I've had other people, have big reactions. I've had a woman look at a painting and burst into tears.
Hmm.
And her quote, what she said, um, thank you for helping me to remember that I can feel.
Wow.
And that like took me out. And she went to the owner of the gallery and was like, I don't even know how much it cost, and gave them the card.
Wow.
And it was like, wow, or this woman swore that she saw a frog and a sneaker in my painting. And she wouldn't let it go. And I was like, okay, you see what you see.
Mhm.
And I don't try and tell people what to see. I name my paintings for different things. If there's a tree in it, I'm not going to name it the tree. I want you to have your own unique experience with the painting.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
and if you see what I see, I'll tell you, like, yeah, we see the exact same thing. Um, but there are other times that I let people get what they get from it.
Mm.
I want you to have your own unique moment with it.
Sometimes those unique moments are very surprising. I know I did share this on another session, but I had a right after Michael Jackson passed, I painted this nothing, the two things are not related, but I painted this big blue abstract piece. It was blue and it had kind of white elements to it. And I went to a show and I was showing it and somebody stands in front of it and they say, oh, I see what you did there. I'm like, you do? I see Michael. And I'm like, Michael who? Like Michael Jackson. I was like, what? Like, yeah. And they were like showing me exactly where his nose was and his features, and I still had I couldn't see it, and I'm like, is this person just trying to like pull my leg? Is this some kind of joke? But they were like
Right.
bringing people over. Look, see Michael Jackson's. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's
Exactly.
amazing. It's like there was no intent there. I mean, I still never saw this image, but
Like,
like you said,
okay, you see what you see.
yep.
But we call them like unintentional images. I always see faces in my work.
Yeah.
A new thing that's happening is that eyes pop up
Mm.
in the work out of nowhere. Depending on where I'm looking at a piece, uh, from different angles, I see people moving and dancing
Mm.
and faces and eyes just kind of popping out at
Mm.
different times. But that's what I love about it is that I am now getting to the point that I'm able to do different things to manipulate the inks to
Mm.
get them to do what I want them to do. And that has been with great intention.
Where are
Uh,
you learning those new skills? Are you self-taught?
I am self-taught. No, I always self-taught is always a tough thing.
Mm.
I am universally taught. I think it is in my genes, it's genetic. It's in my blood. My mom's an artist. And so self-taught is it's a loose term.
Mm.
That would be that like I just took the inks and started. I was born into this.
Mm.
There's so many people that their parents were artists. So you are born into it.
Mm.
That's not self-taught. That's ancestral.
Mm.
That's bloodline. That's heritage.
Yep.
That's not something that I have control over.
Right.
And so, yes, self-taught in the sense that I did not go to school for this, but I went to school for this. I
Mm.
was schooled. I was born into it.
So
So
tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about growing up. What was your experience?
yeah, so I grew
You
up in
have your mom on the line, so you know.
it was terrible. No, I had my friends. We always talk about this. I have had one of the most charmed childhoods and interesting and fun parenthoods, whatever that you want to call it. I was lucky. I hit the jackpot when it comes to my parents. Um, eh, Encouraging me to be the most creative, open, loving person ever because I learned from their examples.
Mm.
Was it perfect? That's relative, but um, taught me to be loving and fun and open. I've had this conversation with my mom that my dad is one of the most non-judgmental people that you will ever meet. We were trying to figure out when was the time that we heard my father talk negatively about someone.
Mm.
It's like he's not like a, a a trash talker about people. If he doesn't like people, he kind of stays away from him.
Mm.
It's just one of those things. And my mother is a force, an energy. I can't because that will make me cry. That
We're in the business of making people cry on this show, just so you know. You're not be the first.
well, it's just like the energy of them encouraging me to be every bit of myself
Mm.
in all aspects of my life. I think that kind of informs the way that I move around the world.
Mm.
So that makes it easier for me to just love people because of the way that my family loves me. So that's a big part of kind of the energy that I walk around with is that that's what I was taught with
Mm.
to kind of love people and respect people. And if you're going to do anything, do it to the best of your ability, good, bad, or indifferent. If you're going to do something bad, do it all the way bad.
Right.
Like be good at it, you know. And if you're going
Yeah.
to do something great, be great and work at it. Don't half-ass things. Like just don't do that. And so that's kind of how I live my life. If I'm going to be in it, be in it.
Mhm.
So that's really that's how I kind of go about things. I don't even remember what the question was, but that's
Well, first of all, it was about your childhood, but first of all, that's a great message for any parents out there. I love that you said they allowed you to move freely throughout the world, like you were encouraged and supported and championed and nurtured, and what a
yeah.
gift that is to have that experience.
And growing up in Washington D.C., I think that had a big influence on it too. Growing up, like I always say, like in the shadows of the Smithsonian Institute.
Mm.
and having access to any museum that I wanted to at any given time. My childhood weekends start off with like 2 weekends of Boy Scouts. I'm like, I'm not a Boy Scout. Like, get out of here. I like a little too much glitter and sparkle to be like making knots with ropes. That's just not my thing. At least not in that way. That's a different live chat. Forget it. Um, but um, so my weekends would be spent like hopping on the bus when I was old enough to like go downtown and go to the National Portrait Gallery,
Mm,
going to like the Air and Space Museum, just going to different museums that you could just walk into. And so I could just go and explore and look at art and go to the Natural History Museum or just sit out on the mall and watch people.
wow. That's
So
incredible.
yeah, and so that like having this young black kid have access to all this culture and people, and the elementary schools and junior high schools I went to were with kids from Bowling Air Force Base. So
Mm,
I grew up with a lot of kids that were Air Force kids, military kids who were from all over the world. So, and also being from Washington, D.C., with the government being like it's a huge government town. So having the threat of the government, the military, people from around the world, having this huge thread of Black culture, this understanding of me being every bit of myself and love and family and being completely open and not this place of not having judgment, I kind of hit the jackpot. And then by high school, I went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts, where I was able to meet people who got me, who got art and got like this kid who was trying to figure out where he fit in the world. And they're like, you belong here. You can be an actor. You can be a writer. You can be a painter, and you don't have to choose, but you got to audition to get in here
mm,
and kind of figure it out. Um, Helped tremendously and prepared me to move to New York City.
mm. Nothing really prepares you to move to New York City, but
Yeah,
yes.
because at that point, I knew that I had been around so many different types of people. I was ready to compete and jump in because I had to compete to just get into high school. I had to audition to get into high school.
Mm,
And so I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. And I only wanted to go to two schools. I either wanted to go to Howard University in DC or FIT in New York. There were no other places that I even wanted to entertain.
mm.
And so I started off at Howard and was like, no, this isn't my place. And then I moved to New York City.
Wow.
And
So I
so,
wanna I wanna talk about that, but before we do, I wanna backtrack a little bit. You talked about going to all these amazing museums, and DC is just full of amazing cultural institutions, and unusually, most of them are free, right? I think
mhm,
that's something that we're not accustomed to in New York.
right.
Was there any particular piece of artwork or artifact that really moved you during that time, during your younger years?
I can't say that it was any one particular piece of art. This has come up a lot in the last couple of weeks with people like asking questions. I just participated in this challenge where you post one inspirational piece
Mhm,
a day for like 5 days. And one of the things that stood out to me is, of course, music always played
mhm,
um, a huge role in my life. But one thing when I was thinking about as a kid, something that always stuck with me when I think about images and artwork, something that stuck with me that came out when I was doing this art inspiration were the album covers of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
mm.
Because my parents had a huge record collection. I frequently would go through album covers. So I would just always read the liner notes and look at album covers. But Earth, Wind, and Fire always had album covers that had these huge, like, color palette, these vibrant colors that would radiate. And I never thought about it until I was doing this challenge, like, but those album covers I would always look at, and they always had Egyptian art mixed in.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and they were red, yellows, and blues, and these oranges that would radiate from the cover. So anybody take a look at their album covers, and you will see this thread of this energy, this vibrating color. And that's something that I know always sticks with me when I look at my paintings.
Mm.
Those colors and the way that they're used is a huge influence,
Mm.
and has
When
and
you
I never thought about it.
right, when you're describing the colors, I'm looking at what's in the background there. I'm like, there it is.
Yeah, and it's just been something that I think about in my childhood
Mm.
that I always go back to, and I remember, like, always, like, kinda laying them out and looking at them
Mm.
front and back, and they were open in the center. Often their album covers were open out into, like, a larger spread, and it would be like this huge piece, and I would be, like, mind blown at the color. So that would be one thing, because in the museums, I would honestly just be kind of mesmerized with the people
Mm.
and just kind of looking around like, wow, all of these people are just here because people would migrate to DC, school trips and bus trips of people just coming to DC to, I was like, why are they coming to see this spaceship just in the middle of the museum? Like, this is so interesting that people come all the way here, and I get to come here all the time. That's what my mind would go to. Like, people come all the way here, and I could just hop on the bus.
That's amazing. But
So
not everybody appreciates it like you do. Not everybody appreciates the arts and culture, and so it's a unique perspective I think we have as creative people to really value those experiences.
yeah,
So you talked about music. What other musicians or influences would you say have perhaps led your creative practice? Has there been any, or do you even listen to music when you create?
I have to. I
Okay.
cannot listen. I can't have silence. It's part of, like, this ritual.
Who are you listening to right now when you paint?
Well, usually I'm listening to, like, house and dance music when I am painting.
Okay.
I can't listen to like, soft, relaxing classical music.
Hmm.
Not that it's anything wrong with it. I can do that for detailing. I have to be in the right mind frame, but when I am actively painting and laying down ink, I need energy because I'm usually dancing and, like, moving around, or I'm FaceTiming with my mom when I'm painting. So we'll
Interesting.
paint together on FaceTime. And so usually she'll say something like, well, who do you want to hear? And I'll say something like, nobody like this person, not this, because she can paint to anything pretty much. So she might turn on someone like Sade,
Yes.
which is great music. It's just a little too soft for me to paint to. So we'll usually end up turning on, like, some house remix album or dance album or something like that. I have a playlist on my phone. I'm on Spotify. Also a plug. Give me that commercial. Um, that will play.
Hmm.
So it's usually something really high energy um, that I'll paint to.
I think you painting and your mom painting over FaceTime is a show waiting to happen. I think
Usually
people would want to watch that.
it's usually us uh, laughing and talking about random stuff.
Hmm.
It's about random stuff, or me saying, "Could you turn down the music?" or her screaming at Alexa to, like, turn up, turn down, next song, that thing. Like, that is not what I asked for. That kind of thing.
So do you critique each other?
Yes. Not really critique. We give feedback because our styles are so different. My mom also works in alcohol ink, but she works in acrylic and wire work and does a lot of different things. Uh, I will give her feedback. She gives me feedback. But we will frequently say, you only have one painting to paint, and that's yours.
Mm.
So I hear you. Thanks. But moving on. So it's like,
Stay
uh,
in your lane.
yeah. But what we have had happen is that we could start painting at the same time and end up with the same colors,
Mm.
not even intentionally. Or we try and keep each other from creating the same piece.
Mm.
If it's something that we've seen each other do before, it's like, oh, doesn't that look like that piece that you did, a few weeks ago? Or isn't that similar to so and so? Just to kind of keep each other, pushing each other to do something different. Or maybe you should try, we make suggestions,
Mm.
but if you do what you do it. I think we give each other the space to create in our own unique way. And because of that, we don't step on each other's toes. We don't, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. There have been times when my mother's like, no, not doing it for me. And I'll do the same thing to her. Like,
Right.
I don't know about that. She'll say, I don't know about that, small Bryant. Like, I don't know about that. Because she has lots of nicknames for me, but one of them, she's like, I don't know about that, small Bryant. And then I'll say, okay, you don't see it,
Right.
but I feel it, and I'll go with it, and that's it. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, it sounds like a beautiful relationship, and I think there's a lot of people asking, how can we see mom's work? And also, have you and mom ever done anything combined? Have you
Well, this is about me, not about her. She'll get her own show.
I love it. I love it.
um, we have done a show together. We did a show called Mother to Son: Dreaming in Color,
Hmm.
and we did it at Bridge Art Gallery in Bayonne, who I credit them with really giving me the shot.
Hmm.
And I always thank them for changing my life
Hmm.
because they opened the door. Chris and Cheryl Mack at Bridge Art Gallery um, believed in me when I didn't think I could do it. And
Hmm.
so they put up that show for my mother and I. We did it in Bayonne, and then we took that show to DC.
Wow. How was
And
that to return? How did it feel to return home?
oh, it was really, really great.
Hmm.
It was really great to take that show, and it was in the Anacostia Art Center, and that's where I grew up. So around the corner from where I grew up, to be able to put this show up there was like really special,
Hmm.
really, really special. But my mom is on Instagram, Diane English Art. So giving her a plug, follow her. She posts every few days. She'll post. So yeah,
That's
I
beautiful.
just got a text from my grocery. I'm multitasking, people.
Yeah, we're
So.
going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about the artist life of multitasking, trying to balance. Brian and I were talking about balance before we jumped on this morning, and how that is a struggle for most of us. But I want to back up a little bit and talk about your recent residency. You had a residency at Manor Contemporary in Jersey City. Tell us about that. Tell us what that meant to you, what you were able to come out of that experience with, and perhaps some tips that you can pass on to anyone who might be considering applying for one in the future.
Well, the first thing is, if you are going to do a residency, apply.
Hmm.
Apply for residencies. I think that was one of the most eye-opening experiences for me ever. I heard, uh, I asked the question a couple years ago, having a conversation with Theda Sandiford and Cheryl Gross, two artists based in Jersey City, about residencies. Just having this open conversation about, and actually, Theda is showing at Bridge Art Gallery right now. Now that I think about it, check it out. Amazing show.
Oh, I see mom. Is this Diane English?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were having this conversation about residencies, and they were saying you should absolutely do residencies.
Mm.
And I hadn't thought about it, and heard about the ESKFF program. the Eileen Kaminsky Family Foundation at Mana, and I applied. And it took a while to hear back, almost a year.
Mm.
But when I got accepted to the residency, for the lack of a better term, the oh shit moment kicked in. That I thought the game just changed because I had never. I don't get nervous about things often, uh, but at that moment, I thought I need to be able to show
Mm.
what I can do. There are people from around the world that apply to this residency. So to be part of this group, it's time to put up or shut up. The game changed. And so stepping in at the beginning of this year uh, was a big deal for me. And stepping in with these artists that I hadn't met, some of them I hadn't met before, I was blown away at their talent, at uh, like walking in, I thought, you chose me to be in this. And so I started out doing my first piece, like, all right, I just need to find my rhythm in this. And then a fire, like, just lit that I'm like, I need to do this. Like, let's go. And they asked what it is that you plan to create during this time. And I said, I wanted to do a collection of large scale paintings. And this is one of them. Here, this is New Orleans behind me. And the pieces, what I ended up creating was what I call the World Traveler Collection. And it was a collection of paintings inspired by the colors and energies of different cities from around the world. And some of my favorite places, places that I've always dreamt about going to or have been to. And what started off as this like 10-piece collection ended up being like this 22-piece collection.
Wow.
And it's because when the art comes, you just go with it.
Mm.
And they kept coming and coming. I still haven't shown them all. I've been showing them here and there, posting them every few days on my Instagram, usually about once a week or so.
And you just wrapped this residency, right? It's very recent.
Yeah, the residency was to end at the end of March, and then the quarantine happened.
Mm.
And so it wrapped up a lot faster than it was supposed to.
Mm.
A little earlier than it was supposed to, but still in the space. And I'll tell everybody, since I have an audience here, that I have just secured a studio at Mana Contemporary. So,
oh, amazing! Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm opening a new studio at Mana Contemporary.
Amazing.
So
amazing.
Yeah, and what the residency taught me is that one, I do have a ritual to painting. One of the first things that I realized is that I don't normally paint with shoes on. It's like, I'm usually in like slippers.
Right.
So I had to adjust to, at Mana, wearing shoes when I'm painting.
You could have took them off.
I was like, yeah, I could have. I was like, well, I had to adjust to wearing shoes. And then I paint in soft clothes.
Hmm.
They're usually very soft, like sweats, pajama kind of clothing. And so I was like, okay, I needed to think about that. And I had to adjust. But I needed to also adjust to painting around other people.
Mm.
Because usually the only person that I'm painting with is my mom over FaceTime. Or if we're in my home studio, she had painted in the space, but that's it.
How did that impact you? Did you feel the sense of judgment or no?
No, I didn't. Well, because they were semi-private spaces. Everybody had their own like kind of cubicle spaces.
Okay.
And everybody was extremely respectful over boundaries in everyone's area. But it allowed us to kind of share the energy and to kind of look at the way that other people worked. And me working in Alcohol Inc., there weren't other Alcohol Inc. artists there. but we were able to kind of look at each other's work and understand people's processes. And I could see how some people really got quiet in their work and didn't need music, and other people were extremely vocal and grunting and making noises while they were working. And some people like were very thoughtful about their work and kind of methodic about the way that they went about their work. Where for me, it is a complete exploration and experimenting as I'm working through it. But I'm dancing around the table, so they're looking at me like, "What is he doing?" I'm like, "That's a little
I'm sure
shimmy."
you brought a lot of joy and positive energy to that
Yeah,
experience.
it's a little shoulder action, a little shimmy as I'm throwing down the inks, and but you just kind of learn. You
Mm.
learn from it. So, I,
So
sorry, go ahead.
no, no, I want to set the scene. So it's 2017.
Yeah.
It's New York City. You go to this group art show, conception art show.
Hmm.
You hang your work, and there's 39 other artists. And then it comes to the end of the show, and there are jurors in the room from all walks of the creative industry, professionals, educators, museum board members who are juring this show. And then they go to announce the winner and they call your name.
So I'm going to tell you a couple things about that day. First thing is that I was running late. So it was this crazy day. I made my way to the city. I run in and you get a bag. The bag had the information about the jury process, everything. You get a button. There was bottled water, everything. I didn't look at anything. They said, "Oh, Bryant, you can set up here." I said, "Perfect." And I just started setting up. I did a quick costume change, came back, hung my stuff up. And by that time, it was showtime. Someone said, "Oh, don't forget to put your artist button on so they can identify that you're an artist." I said, "Oh, it was on the bag." I took the button, I put it on, and I started talking to people. I just was talking to people. I didn't think about anything, and I'm talking and razzle dazzling, and I'm just there. About a third or half of the night goes by, and the artist beside me says, "Oh, you realize there are jurors walking around." And it's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, you just met one of the jurors." Like, "Excuse me? Like, jurors are here?" She's like, "Yeah, you didn't read the letter. There's also, a competition going on." I was like, "Oh, okay." Didn't really pay it any mind and just went with it. And as the night continued, um, I just was talking to people. And
Mhm.
I did not think about a competition. I didn't think about anything. And I tend not to, for that particular show, I've been busy. That's actually the same time I'd done the show with my mom and I. I had just gotten back into town maybe 3 days before that. Around that time, we'd done the show. I was traveling back and forth and didn't have a lot of time. So I like came in, did the show, and I'm in the middle of conversations and I'm talking to a couple of people when the announcement is happening. I didn't have anyone, didn't have family or friends there at the show. And the hostess of the show is speaking about the winner. I am completely in with this couple talking about art, and they are like loving this glitter piece that I have. And I'm talking, and the woman says, "Wait a second, what is your name again?" And I said, "Oh, Bryant Small." She said, "I think that they're calling your name." I said, "What?" And I looked to the stage, and the host is on the stage is saying, "You come here." And I said, "Oh my gosh." She's like, "And the winner of the 2017 Award for Excellence is Bryant Small. Come." And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is strange. And everybody was smiling. And I was like weaving my way through the crowd, like, this is so strange. And the only thing I kept thinking is, oh shit, I have gum in my mouth. And I think I do recall at some point she asked me something, and I said, I have gum in my mouth. And I was like, I got to get rid of the gum. It's the only thing I kept thinking because I knew in my mind, I was like, the gum is going to drop out, and that's going to be so embarrassing. Those are right. And then I came to, and I don't remember the moment. I remember taking a picture, but being like blank, like, I can't believe this. But at that moment, it was a validation that people saw my work and that they saw me, that I was amongst the artist. And it was a big deal at that point, knowing that the jurors could see the value in my work. It was also the stake in the ground that I could stand up in the same spaces, being an alcohol ink artist, this medium that people didn't know about, this medium that people didn't necessarily understand, with acrylic and oil artists that's so much more respected and accepted in the art world, that I was there. And so that was a big thing for me, is that I wanted to take it to task for alcohol ink to be a fine art medium. And so what the award did was, one, change my name forever, I always say, because then I from that point on became award-winning artist.
Yes, sir.
Bryant Small. That's something that was a big deal. Like, I don't do it for the accolades, but it's like, wow, I could say that. That was a good thing. But it also gave me that moment of, you did this. But I was thinking, like, they like me. They really like me. Like, I had my Sally Field moment. Where I could look out and it was just all these people smiling. It was interesting, but also frightening at the same time. But it's one of those unique experiences where I am always in my body, but I'm also able to be introspective at the same time. And I was thinking, wow, people don't get this moment all the time. And I thought, dang, I wish my family and stuff were here. And then it's like, oh no, but that's okay, because then I would be crying right now. And that would be strange. And then everybody would be looking at me really crazy. And then I'm thinking, all these people are smiling, but they don't really know me. They're really happy for me. So all of those things were happening all in this like 30 seconds. And then I thought, wow, this is like Miss America. I'm telling you, these are all the things that were in my head at that time. I was saying, this is like Miss America, as I stepped off the stage, because when I was stepping off the stage, all of the artists kind of came around me, and like this Miss America moment where she's wearing the crown and all the rest of the contestants kind of surround her and congratulate her. I'm like, I am Miss America. It's like, this is so cool. And then I kind of went back and finished the conversation with the couple. They were still standing there.
Wow.
And they're like, oh, congratulations. I'm like, thanks. So about this piece, you want it?
Back into business.
Right. And they didn't take it. It's like, this could have been like a piece that you just got from an award winner. My name just changed. Prices are going up tomorrow, baby.
20%. Thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful moment. I always wanted to get inside the mind of one of our winners and just know how that moment feels. And I know when you come off the stage, not only do you get mobbed by the artist, but usually our team are like, all right, stand here, let's take a photograph of you and a photograph in front of it. It's crazy. It is
a lot, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing because it's just not something that a lot of visual artists get a chance at.
And that's sad. And that's kind of one of reasons that when we started to, that is one of the reasons why we started to give awards, because we recognized that so many other aspects and areas of the arts host awards and, give these award accomplishment, award excellence.
Mhm.
Think about, the actors, the Emmys, the
Right.
musicians, the Grammys, the Tonys. There's something for every area but the visual arts.
Right.
And I think it's important, not just for you as the artist yourself, but to show those coming up.
Right.
Show emerging artists who are coming through that process that you will be celebrated. We will award you. We will, we do appreciate what you're doing and what you're putting out into the world. So thank you for sharing that. And
I
you're
appreciate it.
such a humble guy, and it's especially special for us when someone with such humility, really has meaning and depth to you.
Oh, thanks.
Of course, and I hope it sits somewhere where you see it every day and you remember
It
exactly
is
who you
in
are.
my living room.
Awesome. So how was it received by your family when you broke the news to them?
Uh, Everybody was really excited.
That's
They
awesome.
were really excited, and I get that evening when I got home, um, it took a second for me to post it. I didn't cry, but I did feel like you did it.
Mhm.
Like you did it. You did something that it was like I was able to take a moment, like a second to just like and then immediately it's like, all right, well, what are you doing next?
Right. Next.
And literally that's kind of how I deal with things. I cannot get caught up in you just got an award
Mhm.
because you're only as good as the day before.
Mhm.
Because the next day, and I always think tomorrow the industry can get sick of these high color, high energy paintings and say, I only want like black and white photography now. You're out. That's kind of not what we're looking for right now. And so I don't take it for granted. I don't take these moments for granted, any of the opportunities. So I'm always thinking, all right, so what's next?
Hmm.
What happens after this?
What is next for you right now?
Bigger, bolder, more. The studio is a big thing for me, so I think I'm just trying to plan what it's gonna look like,
Mm. It's exciting.
and how I'm gonna utilize this space. I think part of it is this presents a unique opportunity for me to always have a place to share my work.
Mm.
So, is this a space of me being able to create? Is this a space that I could use to show work all the time? Do I want to use this as a show place?
Mm.
Is this a combination? And so that's where my energy really is creating this space for myself that's for the public too. Because I already have a space to create privately.
Mm.
So I want a place where I can truly bring people to experience what I do.
That's awesome. I'm
Uh,
excited to see what you do with it.
yeah, so I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited about things getting to the new normal,
Mm.
not back to normal. We don't need to go back to what it was. I think I'm ready to get to whatever our new normal is and figure things out.
Mhm.
There were a number of shows that I had planned and events. I had a solo show that was getting ready to go live, and that has been shifted. The timing, and a number of projects in the works that are just kind of stunted.
Mm.
So whenever this new normal comes to be without sirens all the time, uh, just waiting to see what will happen next.
Amazing.
Um, and then I'm going to post it everywhere. So everybody get
Right.
ready for my social to be flooded with new events and stuff. But yeah, that's the big thing. Just trying to figure out when things get back to the normal.
Mm.
Um,
All right, folks. So it's time to ask Bryant some questions. So now is your time to jump in with some questions. While people formulate their questions, tell me a little bit about balance. How is balance working in your life? We talked about having a day job.
yes.
having your hand in kind of, two areas, one the creative, one the business aspect. How do you manage everything?
Lots of coffee. So I'm already out of, well, I'm not done.
Yep. Cheers.
uh, it's important for me being busy. I,
Mm,
I think I need to fill my time. I have to maximize my time. I shouldn't say being busy. I always have to maximize the opportunity to get things accomplished. So that's how I create balance for myself is planning and never missing the opportunity to get something off my list.
mm,
So, with working full time and painting full time and managing these two careers at once, my life is a series of well orchestrated movements. And trying to fit in a social life and a personal life at the same time is not easy.
mhm,
And so, um, when I plan something with my friends, it is always at the at the planning of doing something else or moving something around and shifting something. So that's how I'm able. I don't want anything to suffer,
mm.
and so it is always about shifting and moving and planning and staying organized and um, leveraging my friends and my network to help me get things done.
Mhm.
I could not do it without the help of others. So balance is about support and using my network and family and friends to help me get things done.
Amazing. All right, let's go to some questions. We got quite a few in the thread here. So,
Okay.
Cheryl Mack wants to know, how will you challenge yourself artistically during the next creative phase?
I think not getting comfortable is a big thing. I can't get comfortable thinking that I figured it all out. I think I'm always pushing what next, what next, what next. Um, and I think my work shows that I'm always trying to figure out what I'm going to do to do something unexpected.
Mm,
I don't create for other people, but I want people to like what I'm doing and to be able to see how my work is maturing, to see how my artistic vision is shifting. Um, So I'm always going to challenge myself to push, to
mm.
go further, to go larger, to try and revisit things that I've done in the past and mix it up a bit.
Amazing. All right, so we have one from Lucy Rivetta. If you start to see something recognizable in your piece, do you work to accentuate it or do you try to hide it?
It depends on what it is. I try not to be spot on. It's rare that I like if I see a face, I'm not necessarily going to go and try and add eyes to it.
Mm,
And that's simply because alcohol ink is not predictable. When I try and go in and if I try and accentuate the eye, that ink can run and take out whatever it is, that initial shape that I saw that I was seeing, it can literally destroy it. And so even though I accentuate it, if it's something that I really, really want to do, once the piece is done, I can accentuate it with acrylic.
mm.
I might create a shadow. I might um, play around with depth and accentuate it that way, but I'm not necessarily going to do it with alcohol ink because I can undo what what I've done. But it's rare. It's really rare that I'll go in and try and bring something out more. I like the inks to naturally put something there. I like the inks to kind of naturally do what they do organically. I will um, accentuate a shadow to create more depth in a piece to like create the feeling of stained glass or the luminosity of something. But rarely will I accentuate something recognizable in the piece.
Awesome. So, Erin Delaney, what was your first show and how did you get in, solo or group?
First show was with Bridge Art Gallery. Uh, it was my very first show. I went to their gallery to explore putting up a show with my mom and I, and walked into the gallery, and Chris Mack was there, and I started to talk to him about renting a space. And because I was kind of bold, just I didn't know any better. So I was just going in like, oh, do you guys rent your space? And I love this gallery after researching places online. And so I would reach out to galleries and like, can I send you some stuff? And like find the curator and just reach out to people, barring like not paying attention to any of the guidelines they say, not to send people stuff directly or send an introduction first I would literally find people's emails and shoot out my portfolio.
It's the way to do it.
And not because you're supposed to like have an intro and is it okay if I send you a couple photos and none of that. I literally would find the email, send, boom. But I walked into Bridge Art Gallery, talked with Chris, and he said, we're doing like, we have a show coming up and you should submit some stuff. And I was like, yeah. And went home and submitted. And literally a couple weeks later, I get this email with them announcing the show. And I thought, oh, I didn't get in. Like, oh, well. And so I scrolled through the email and I saw my name in the header. And I was like, and I closed the laptop. And I was like, okay, my power of visualization is really good. Let me just wait. Like, they didn't notify me. So how did I make it into the show? I opened my laptop up again. And when I scrolled through, it said, congratulations on being accepted to the show. And I was like, I made it into my first show. Like, I could not believe it. So it was just going in, talking to gallery owners, and he told me about the opportunity, and I submitted. So that's how I made it into my first show. It was an open call.
There's no shame in audacity, right?
Yeah.
People are so afraid to just put, be your biggest promoter. Like nobody else is going to do it for us, right?
Right. And not knowing any better, I just went for it.
Yep. All right. So Philip A. Robinson Jr., who will be on this show next week.
Phil is an artistic beast. He is phenomenal.
Yep.
Phenomenal.
You are both phenomenal. But
thank you. I wanted, and we're going to do a show together. I'm putting it in the universe. Phil and I are going to do a show together.
That I would love to see, because you have very contrasting, different styles. That would be really cool to see the two of you show together. So Philip asks, how has your advertising and corporate background influenced your artistic practice? Great question, because we didn't even touch on this.
Yeah, I think that is so important for artists to have a mind for business, just as they have a mind for their art and creativity. Is for me, having a foot in both worlds, I think has been a huge contributor in my quote unquote success in art. I am always, though I don't create for sales, I'm always keeping sales and business in mind. I'm always tracking my spending. I'm always thinking about the finances of art. I'm always mindful of when I participate in a show, whether that is going to be beneficial for my career. I am a huge thing that I am always considering is people have these stereotypes about artists that they're just creatives. They don't worry about business. Like they're not reliable. They don't think about that stuff. I think it is imperative that artists understand the business of art. You are a business owner.
Yep.
You are creating a brand for yourself. And so you must be mindful that every decision that you make ties back to your business. And so I think my background in art and my background in advertising and marketing, every decision that I make is on purpose. It may look like it is fun and I'm having a good time and everything, and I am. But I make my decisions strategically. I am thinking about the business, and I think you have to be mindful
Yeah.
about the decisions that you make when it comes to art. You have to be mindful with the galleries that you work with. You have to be thoughtful about who you partner with, where
Mhm.
you place your art. In the beginning, I would be at every envelope opening there was to show my art,
Mhm.
and now I'm grateful to be at a place where I can say no to some events or make the decision not to participate. And it's not necessarily because I'm too big. It's just a decision that, you know what, maybe that's not the best
Mhm.
place for me,
Right.
or that's not the direction that I want to go in.
Right, but your decisions are informed because
Yeah,
you did the research.
yeah. I know that that's not my demographic. I
Mhm.
know that that's not my client. That's not my buyer.
Mhm.
And or I know that I don't do events that it's a slash event where there's going to be music and there's going to be art and there's going to be a music performer and they're also going to do juggling and there's going to be a fashion show also.
Chocolate.
That's
Ah,
not
I know
my
exactly who
event.
you're talking about, but yes,
Yeah,
mentioning
right. But I'm just not going to do that show. It's not any slight to any other artist that takes that path because that is a legit path for some.
yeah,
I just know at this point, that's not the path that I'm on right now. I did do one of those shows. I'm just not doing them anymore.
right.
So it is a matter of understanding, doing the research, understanding what your brand is,
Mhm.
understanding how to utilize social media to your advantage,
Mhm.
understanding that social media gives you power and access to people and galleries and buyers and curators that you otherwise wouldn't have access to, but it also gives them access to your work that they otherwise wouldn't see.
Right.
Use that to your advantage.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a big proponent for everything you just said. I- I'm an art business coach myself, so we have a lot of there's some similarities there, and certainly in terms of understanding the role that marketing, social media, branding plays in success.
Yeah, it's all part of it. You have to be in it to win it.
Yep.
You really have to be actively thinking about all of these moving pieces and not get stuck. I hear that all the time from artists that like I don't have time to think about marketing. Like I just have time to create. That's all part of your process. If you
Mhm.
want success in art, you got to do it. Like my friends and I joke all the time. It's like you want fame. Well, fame costs.
Mhm.
The old show Fame, like,
Yep.
will fame cost? And
Yep.
so you have to be ready, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yeah.
So that means, you know, always be creating, always be thinking about your brand. Or if
Mhm.
you don't understand what your brand is, now it's time to
Mhm.
start thinking about doing a SWOT analysis
Yep.
and start thinking about what does your brand look like.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we have a course right now. If anybody's interested in learning a little bit more, it's artbizbootcamp.com. It is open right now for enrollment, which is talking about all of those things. But this is about you, so we won't talk any more about that. But if anyone does want any information, we do a couple of free workshops here and there as well. So if anyone wants to, learn some more of the social marketing stuff, then we'd be happy to help. So, Bryant, thank you. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Energy is indeed just infectious. Probably not the best word to use right now. Uh,
It doesn't kill you, so that's okay.
yeah, but it's
Sure.
been beautiful spending time with you this morning, and thank you so much.
Likewise.
Thank you to the Bryant Small fan club who showed up in masses this morning. You guys are amazing. Brian, this is your chance to plug what you have coming up, plug your
Yeah.
website, plug your social. Go for it.
So follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, bfly777.com. The same thing, my website is www.bfly777.com. BFLY777.com.
All right. It's already in the comments, folks. So be sure to go check it out. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, it's right there in the comments. Bryant, what a pleasure. So great to hang out with you today. And we cannot wait to come check out your new studio once you get settled and the world is back to the new, or is in the new normal, which
Exactly.
thank you again. And we will keep up with your progress and best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Same to you.
Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.